Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. I was watching one of my favorite movies, Atlas Shrugged, Part 2. Part 1 is good, Part 2 is better. Part 3, they were just trying to finish it, I think. And there was a lot of reasoning why Part 3 wasn't as good as the others. But my favorite part is Part 2 because it outlines exactly why big government is bad. And you've heard me rail against this many times, so I'm going to go into it one more time. The name of this video is The Engine of the World. And for context, I'm going to use... I was talking to a guy the other day. Well, I say the other day, it's been, I think, more than a couple of years ago. But he was upset because his boss, he was talking to his boss, and the boss on the desk had his bank book open, and he saw how much money his boss had in the bank. And so he was upset because, the boss could afford to pay him more. Okay. The book Atlas Shrugged and the movie the movie is based off the book Atlas Shrugged. The book was written by Ayn Rand, and it details how our civilization runs. I titled this The Engine of the World for a reason, because I was watching that and it struck me. I figured out what the engine of the world is. And I knew it, but it didn't strike me until yesterday because my son was watching it with me and we were talking about it. I asked my son, I said, okay, what is the engine of the world? What drives the world? He says, money. Nope, money's not it. Money is simply, excuse me, work units, work tokens, units of exchange. It's how men trade with each other. I gather work tokens. These work tokens I then take to the store and trade for goods, food, whatever. I go to the gas station and I trade work tokens for gas for the car. Work tokens, that's all they are. Money is a unit of exchange, no more. Money is the root of all evil. No, not really. When money ceases to be the tool of men, and there's a great quote in this movie, it's in the book. When money ceases to be the tool of men, then men become the tools of men. Then he said, well, government's got to be what runs the world. No, governments don't run the world. Governments enforce laws and keep the peace. That's it. That's their job. Governments the laws are there. The governments are supposed to enforce it. In America, the government works for us. Period. Okay? And, well, it's got to be the armies then. The military runs the world. No. Armies work for the government. The military, war is the extension, the continuation of political policy through other means. So when the politicians fail, they send in the soldiers. That's what that is. And they work directly for the government, and that's that. So, what is the engine of the world? The engine of the world is people. The inventors, the innovators, the workers, people who are holding a job, the builders, the creators, the thinkers, the artists. Okay. The engine of the world are the people who create value. They built everything from the internet we are using now to the cars we drive to the elastic in your underwear and everything in between. Okay? The engine of the world is the people who create value. Anybody else are simply looters because they're using what other people create for their own ends. They're taking what other people use, and they may be paying them for it or whatever. I don't know. But if they take it without paying for it, they're robbing from the creators, and they're just stealing. So they're looters. Okay? Without these people, without these creators, these people who create value, our civilization simply wouldn't exist. If these people stopped doing what they do, our world would simply grind to a halt. The guy where he saw his boss's bank book open, same guy. I told him, I said, who's John Galt? And he had no idea what I was talking about. And if you don't know who John Galt is, you got to read Atlas Shrugged or go watch the movies. That's pretty good. Those movies were fought tooth and nails. That's why they're in 3 parts, and they're all different actors in each part, and the production value is different in each part. Part 1 is good. Part 2 is much better. Part 3 is okay. But the book is much better. I'm just saying. Governments exist for a reason, to serve and protect the citizens. They enforce laws, they contract laws, and make sure nobody's robbing people and stuff like that. And because they have the police work for the government. They protect and serve the people. Big government breeds corruption. Corrupt governments seek to rob the engine of the world of its output. Government takes. Government, and I've said this before, you've heard me say it many, many times. Government only does 2 things well: take people's money and kill people. That's all they do. That's their only thing they're good at. I'm going to bring up this. There was a man. I'm going to say this again. There's a man who had a legal brothel in Nevada, and I've used this. I heard about this. Wayne Allen Root talked about it in an interview one time. There was a legal brothel in Nevada, and it fell behind. The owner fell behind on his taxes, so the government came in and seized it. Well, by law, they had to run it. Within a year, that multi-million-dollar business was bankrupt. Why? Because the government couldn't figure out how to legally sell sex and alcohol to truckers in the desert. If you can't do that, you got no business telling anybody else about anything. Healthcare, how to fight the coronavirus, none of that stuff. Just shut the hell up. Okay? If you can't figure out how to legally sell sex and alcohol to truckers in the desert, you just need to just shut up and sit down. Okay, that's all there is to it. Governments seek to take from the creators. Corrupt governments really do it. Okay, big government is infamous for it. There's another movie that, another book that Ayn Rand wrote called The Fountainhead. They made a good movie about it, and there's a courtroom scene, and I talk about this in some other videos. Go check them out. But they say it very, very well in there. They say it much better than I can. When you want the source material, when you want to talk about the source material, quote the source material. Ayn Rand, there's never going to be anyone else like her. She was a brilliant writer, a very, very smart woman. And by the way, I'm not going to go to that. That's a whole different crap. I'm not going to go there. But I'm notorious for getting sidelined on different topics. At any rate, the engine of the world is the creators. If you're not creating, and not paying for what you're using from other people, if somebody else is creating something and you're not paying for it to use it, you're a looter because you've stolen it. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.